Thank you, Marvin. We appreciate it.
All right, so we're all here. We have a quorum, so we'll get started. Carrie, do you want to lead anything or welcome?
Thank you very much. I believe after the meeting is called to order, I call roll call.
Okay, so I'm calling the meeting to order. Would you like to do roll call?
Okay. So Commissioner Warwick,
Here.
Commissioner Brown,
Here.
Commissioner Keesley,
Here.
and then Councillor Bishad. It's not here.
Yeah, and Counselor Bishide, she's just an observer. She's not part of the commission, so we're good.
Okay. I'd like to lead everybody in the Pledge of Allegiance, if that's all right. Pledge Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic
for which it stands, one nation,
under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. All right, so we've got our agenda, and should we let the public know that it's dated differently, or we still have the agenda as the 16th?
Let me double check.
Have we updated anything?
No, we're all good to go. Our agenda says the 16th, so. Oh, wait.
Okay.
No, you're right, Wendy. The agenda still stands, but instead of the 16th, it's the 23rd.
Okay. So the public hearing is now open for the purpose of considering the items on the agenda. We have, it's like we have a site plan review. And just one site plan review. Is that right, Ryan?
We have one driveway / encroachment permit, one fence permit,
Okay.
one partition, and one conversion of a garage to a second dwelling unit.
Okay. Thank you. So the first one is review to consider request to improve or existing driveway and street encroachment along eastern edge of tax lot 4705 on the Norris Street frontages of 1410 Fifth Avenue. And the owner and applicant is Omar Pantoja. So I'd like to open it up for staff to give us the review.
So we looked at this property recently for a fence permit. They've improved the existing home at 1410 Fifth Avenue. They have paved part of the driveway and are looking to kind of connect that area of public right-of-way, which is not paved, between their driveway on their property to the existing paved street on Norris Street. So this property is on the corner of 5th and Norris. The street pavement is approximately 20 feet, but the actual right-of-way is, I think it's 60 feet here. So there's a significant section of gravel area between their property line and the paved street, and they basically just want to pave that section. So we have a couple of sections of code that we would deal with here, and those are based in chapter 17.62 of the municipal code, which outline driveway openings. For a single family home, which this is, driveways are supposed to be between 10 feet, a minimum width, and 24 feet, the maximum width. They're proposing extending this driveway, which is approximately 15 feet out to Norris Street. So the other criteria we have is related to construction. Our code says that the following development maintenance standards shall apply to all driveways. One, surface option driveways shall be paved with asphalt, concrete, or comparable surfacing. Paving surfaces shall be subject to review and approval by the Public Works Director, which would be just general staff for us. Number two, surface water management when paved surface is used, all driveways, parking areas, aisles, and turnaround shall have on-site collection or infiltration of surface waters to eliminate sheet flow of such waters onto public rights of way and abutting property. And then driveway aprons or approaches are required to connect driveways to the public right of way. They shall be paved with concrete surfacing. So with that, appears that their request meets the code and that it's wider than 10 feet and narrower than 20 feet. And they're proposing asphalt to connect the concrete driveway to the paved asphalt portion of Norris Street. Typically, city driveways would have culverts under them. On Norris Street, there are culverts and storm drain on the east side of the road, but there currently are no culverts or storm drain connections on the west side of Norris Street. So staff's recommendation is that the Planning Commission, that the proposed encroachment can be approved. However, the following condition should be included in the approval in order to approve the driveway connection in accordance with city ordinances and public improvement standards of the city of Gold Hill. First recommendation, the property owner's contractor shall provide the city of Gold Hill with a certificate of liability insurance, specifically listing the city as an additionally insured party. And 2, the property owner shall provide the city with a construction plan indicating the base preparation and asphalt dimensions to be applied to be approved by the city. So if there are any questions, I'd be happy to try to answer those.
Before we go there, I think there was a few things I missed. I just want to make sure that we go through and make sure that people need to recuse themselves. They can. Does any commissioner member wish to disqualify him or herself for any personal or financial interest in this matter before us tonight? Or does any commissioner member wish to report any significant ex parte or pre-hearing contacts?
Nope.
No.
Okay. Does any member of the audience wish to challenge the right of any commissioner to hear this matter? Not hearing or seeing anything. Is there any member of the audience who wishes to question the jurisdiction of this body to act on behalf of the city council in this matter? I don't see or hear anything. Oregon land use laws require that all issues be raised. If the issues are to be appealed, failure to raise the issues at this hearing may invalidate their further appeal. So I'd like to now open it up to any questions that people might the commission might have for Ryan.
This applicant is Omar Pantoja. So I think Ryan should
but do we want to do the applicant right now, or do we want to? Shouldn't we ask questions right now before we have the applicant come through, or do you want the applicant to come through first?
I think the only applicant on the line is for the partition and garage to dwelling unit. I don't think Mr. Pantoja is on the phone or the.
But Jerry, for clarification, do we have the applicant speak first before we ask questions of staff?
Yeah, technically, we should have the applicant present while we introduce their item. So
Okay, great.
if
Is
we have
the
an
applicant
applicant on
present?
standby, he can certainly come in and watch our meeting. There's no problem with that. And that is in compliance with Oregon state law.
Okay. So did I hear that the applicant is not present though?
Right. So if the next applicant is waiting, we can let him in.
Okay.
He can sit through this with us.
Okay. So then I'm turning it over to the commissioners. Do you have any questions for Ryan?
My only thought is I'm just grateful that he asked to do it. I mean, I think I can't see any reason why not to. It seemed pretty straightforward. I like the recommendations. And I don't have anything else to say.
Any comments from the public in general? Okay. And Mark?
No, I think the staff report looks good. Like Ryan said, there's a culvert on the east side of the street, but not on the west side. So it wouldn't make any sense to try to require that on the homeowner's side. So no, I'm good with it.
Okay, any motions to approve or disapprove?
I'll move to approve the application as recommended in the staff report, pending that items 1 and 2 in the recommendations are adhered to.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I,
Opposed? All right, looks like we're moving on. Okay, let me just pull the agenda back up, sorry. Okay, the next is to review to consider a request to construct a 6-foot tall fence along the northern and eastern edge of tax lot 904. Owner and applicant Arvin and Nicole Booker. Let's see, does any commissioner member wish to disqualify him or herself for any personal or financial interest in this matter before us tonight, or does any commissioner member wish to report significant ex parte or pre-hearing contacts?
No.
Any member of the audience wish to challenge the right of any commissioner to hear this matter? Or is there any member of the audience who wishes to question the jurisdiction of this body to act on behalf of the city council in this matter? Okay. Oregon land use laws require that all issues be raised in this if the issues are to be appealed. Failure to raise the issues at this hearing may invalidate their further appeal. Ryan, would you give us your staff report, please?
Yes. So this is a request for a fence at 674 Lafayette Street. So Lafayette Street right-of-way exists all the way up to 7th Avenue right-of-way. However, I think looking at the site's a little important as we're looking at this. Lafayette Street above 6th Avenue kind of turns into this person's driveway, which then connects up to 7th Avenue. But the real public right-of-way is along the eastern edge of this property and connects to 7th Avenue, which is the northern edge of this property. So where they're asking to build a fence is along the property line to the north along 7th Avenue. And 7th is kind of built, but not much more than a goat trail, really, I think, up there. And then Lafayette is built down at 6th Avenue, but kind of ends at the beginning of their property. So it's a little confusing for a homeowner, I think, when they're looking at where is their property line without clear markers. So with that said, we have a fence code section, which is 17.56.010, which talks about how tall fences can be on property, and that's related to required building setbacks. So this tax lot 904, has frontage on 7th and Lafayette. Technically, Lafayette is the front property line, and 7th Avenue is an exterior side yard. So if those streets were built, the idea is that 6-foot fences need to be set back further from the property line. So essentially, so that vehicles wouldn't drive out from the fence and run over people walking along the edge of the street. That is the code that we use to determine how tall fences should be in relation to streets. It's a little bit tricky because the streets aren't really built here, but the property does front public right-of-way, which could be a public street, and people have permission to walk through at this point. So let me read some of this staff report. So the submitted application, it's a little unclear if they really are aware where their property line is. So this parcel is approximately 100, it is actually exactly 150 feet deep. That's the 7th Avenue frontage, and it's 110 feet wide along the Lafayette Street frontage. So the city owns all of those right-of-ways, and as I said, Lafayette is the front, and 7th is the side. So there's a couple pictures that kind of help point out in the staff report where the property is. And again, the fencing would be on the north and east edges. So the recommendation from staff after saying that is that the proposed fence can be allowed if the following conditions are met, meeting the fence standards of the city of Gold Hill. So number 1, the property owner shall locate all property lines of tax lot 904 prior to constructing the said fence and shall not install fence within the public right-of-way. 2, the property owner shall utilize the 811 call before you dig service to locate all utility lines before constructing said fence. And 3, and this is staff's suggestion based on the strict code, any proposed fencing shall meet all requirements of section 17.56.010 of the City of Gold Hill Municipal Code. A, the fence along the property line along Lafayette Street shall be set back 20 feet from the property line if it's 6 feet tall, or it shall be no taller than 3.5 feet. This would mean a 6-foot tall fence would have to be approximately 30 feet or less from the house on the east side. And B, the fence along the exterior side property line along 7th Avenue shall be set back 10 feet from the property line or shall not be taller than 3.5 feet. This would mean a 6-foot tall fence would be approximately 20 feet or less from the house, not the garage on the north side. And the garage is probably extending into the public right-of-way on 7th Avenue. So those are the suggestions from staff for approving this fence. If there are any discussion, question or comments, I'd be happy to try to help address those.
Part of the fence, the fence is being built to help identify these people's property line. Is that part of the deal, or?
I think it's also it mentions a 6-foot tall fence, but I'm not really clear about that. But it would, if it was on their property line, yes, it would help indicate what's their property and what's public property.
It just seems unlikely to me that they'd want to build a fence that was 30 feet back from their property line. Is that?
Yes, I don't think that is their intent. But that's the strict interpretation of the code. However, as I said, the code is meant for developed streets. But I don't have anything in the fence section that says if the street isn't developed, you don't apply the setback, because someday it will be the street.
Could we, I guess if the street is there, if the street's put there, then it makes a difference. How high it is. And my sense is without the street, having a 3.5-foot fence is probably not what they want. So it's, I wonder if we could sort of do it conditionally in that they can build their 6-foot fence on the property line, but if we build the fence, I mean, if the road is actually completed, it would have to be the fence. They would have to agree to return, adhere to whatever code was.
I think that sounds appropriate. If that's the Planning Commission's choice, I think you could replace recommendation 3 and state that the fence may be 6-foot tall fence may be built on the property line with the condition that if a full public street or if a street is developed in the public right of way, that the fence would be brought into compliance with current fence code.
That would, I mean, that's just a thought, but
Yeah.
I don't know. It seems like that could be 20 years from now, multiple different owners. I think that's a lawsuit waiting to happen. Sorry, we're putting a street in, cut your fence down 3 feet. I think it's really nice of you to think of trying to figure out how to meet their needs, but I don't know if that really is reasonable.
okay.
Yeah, maybe the only question is how would you be able to record that and then enforce that in the future?
Yeah, and if we're putting that, if that's not going to be part of the title, then owners are buying that without knowing that and that kind of thing. So, yeah. I think that if they're trying to define their space, I think a 3.5 feet fence should be fine if they're just trying to define their space, their property line. And we're just talking about on one street, right? They could build the 6 foot on the other, where the driveway is.
On 7th, it would need to be set back 10 feet to be 6 feet tall. And on Lafayette, it would need to be set back 20 feet to be 6 feet tall. But it could be on the property line on both streets if it were 3.5 feet tall.
3.5.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, then I'm cool with that.
So it's good. Yeah. I mean, if they want to maximize their yard space, they're going to kind of be limited to a 3.5 foot high fence.
Yeah, if they're
And I
trying to,
think that if we wanted to be reasonable, and if we wanted to reconsider something, if they wanted more yard space, maybe we just adjust since there is a more developed street, right, on the north or on the east side.
7th does have a somewhat passable path, I believe, but it's really not a paved, developed street. Lafayette just isn't
Lafayette
built at
is
all
the-
at that point. Yeah.
Lafayette's developed.
At that point, there's no path. I don't think there's any path on Lafayette along that portion.
I mean, instead of a 10-foot setback, could we do a 5-foot?
I think we ought to assume that the streets are going to get built. I mean, there's certainly a lot of interest in building now, so.
Yeah. That's true. What's the purpose of the 10-foot setback?
So as I can trace the purpose of fence heights and setbacks were really started from like the Chicago fire, with homes being really close together, constructed of wood. So cities started creating setbacks so that houses were separated from each other to diminish fire hazard. Fence height setbacks seem to be really based on automobile driven cultures, and it really has to do with 20 feet on the front yard is supposed to be enough room for you to kind of pull a car out of the garage and see somebody walking down the street before you get out to the street. And so the 10-foot side yard, I think the idea is a lot of side yards also have a fence that has a gate that people could drive out, but they want to give them more of a yard. But I think they're both based on vehicles pulling out from a fenced yard onto a street. Not every town has the same setback, but most have some kind of requirement that a tall fence be set back from the property. And I think really it's related to pedestrians being safe when a car pulls out from the driveway. But if you get into an urban center, a lot of buildings are built right to the property line, but there's an expectation that you're watching out for people on a busy sidewalk. In a rural neighborhood, it's not that often that somebody's walking in front of your driveway.
So is there any interest from the commission, and if we're, requiring the shorter fence on the front, could we give them 5 more feet on the side and just, require no gate that allows a vehicle to travel in and out on that side?
Well, I don't know that adjusting the setback is any different than not wanting to adjust the fence height on the back in case of street. In other words, allowing them a 6-foot high fence on the back. If we're not going to allow that, I think we need to stick to the code with the setbacks, because that's another situation. If you allow one homeowner an adjustment to the setback, then that could run into issues down the road.
Yeah. Maybe it's something too that we could look at in the future, that if it's not going to have vehicles going in and out of, I don't see why we couldn't have it going up to their property line.
Some cities have changed the fence code to tie it to how visible how visually clear is your fencing. And if it's visually clear and maintained clear vision, like you can see through more than 50% of the fence, you can have a taller fence. Ours is not that complex, but some have become.
And if they're not going to have vehicles going in and out of Lafayette, I don't see any reason why they couldn't have it all the way up to their property line. If it's, unless there's a, sidewalk, but I guess that doesn't really matter either, because the sidewalk would be public, only on the public land. I think that we should think about, I know, Jerry, you're looking at revising codes. Maybe we could build some flexibility in the fencing codes to allow for different kinds of situations like this where it's not a car going in and out of it. It doesn't need to have visible, but we're taking 10 feet of their property away from them.
Yeah, we can certainly look at that. Excuse me.
And there's no house on the other side, right? It's just a street. So there's no fire hazards.
This is one of those complex challenges because like Mark and Steve have mentioned, who knows when we're ever going to improve 7th Avenue. That's the challenge. One of the things that I was going to announce a little bit later is we just received a grant, thanks to Ryan, for technical assistance to review our land use related ordinances. And this is certainly one of the ordinances that we can review. Where that puts us right now, I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's something that we should be looking at. I don't know where that puts us right now either. But in this specific property on Lafayette, where it's not, the street's already there. I just feel, I would feel weird if somebody's saying, hey, I'm going to take 10 feet away from your property for no reason. Like there's no house on that side because it's a street, it's Lafayette. So it's not a fire hazard you're trying to create or trying to mitigate space between homes. There's no car going in and out on that side of the street. So why couldn't that person be able to put it up to the property line? I just feel there's going to be extenuating circumstances like this that we should be able to have some flexibility to be able to apply without creating issues for us in the future when we're looking at similar, other properties.
Yeah,
Mark and
sure.
Steve, what do you think?
Well, yeah, I mean, if you look at the aerial view in Brian's staff report, I mean, this is just personally, you look at that, there's nothing on the east side and nothing on the north side. I personally wouldn't have any problem with them putting a 6-foot high fence all the way on those two sides, but that's just my personal opinion. It could be 30 years before anything's ever done and a street put up there and whatever. And they're not going to be fencing the whole property. They're only kind of putting a semi-perimeter around the place. Not knowing what, their firm reasoning for the 6-foot high fence. I'm not sure the 3.5-foot high fence is going to suffice for what they're looking for. So,
Have they read the staff report?
I have not heard anything else from Mr. Booker. I don't know.
Ryan, one of the things that I have a property where I have a 6-foot high fence, and when it's a 90-foot drive, and when I get down to the end of the drive, that's where I have the grading fence that goes down. So I can see pedestrians or cars. Can we do something like that? Or we say, that we give, so like if a car's coming out the driveway, they really only have to see, a little bit this way and a little bit that way. Could we give a 6-foot fence with a grading sloping fence where they can actually see what's on the other side of the fence when they drive up?
Yeah. The other, we could also require that their fence complies with the clear vision area requirements, which require that there's a 10-foot triangle on each side of the driveway where you can't have anything over 2.5 feet. So basically they'd have to kind of come back in a V right at the driveway with their fence.
Could it be gradual so it doesn't look stupid? Like, couldn't it just be gradual?
Sure.
That's what I have. And that way they could get a 6-foot fence on most of that property on the 7th Street. And then when their car's coming in and out, they'll be able to see animals or people.
It wouldn't necessarily be recorded as part of the deed, but technically if you took Mr. Kiesling's suggestion and replaced condition 3 with something that said, if the street is improved, the fence will comply. A land use decision does run with the land. And if we kept it in a tax lot file at the city, technically we could enforce that someday. I know it might be hard to ever rediscover that, but technically it is enforceable by the city if we can show that we have that voted on motion recorded in city records. Just a thought.
Yeah, I mean, I think that allows us to cover our bases. I mean, cover our butts, allow them to do what they probably ought to do in the short term. The other thing we could do is we could kick it till next meeting and have them show up, because it's, I'm sort of surprised they're not here.
That might help, actually.
Yeah, if the 3.5 feet fence isn't really an issue for them, then it's an
Then
easier
maybe that's not a
issue for
problem.
you. And if they
Yeah.
really need 6 feet, maybe you need to think more about how to do that. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. You guys want to do that?
Yeah, I mean, if we can table it and have them attend or at least provide,
Just to be able to answer our questions and try and meet their
provide
needs
some
as best as
written
possible, right?
feedback to us.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, something to the effect of, if they're good with a 3.5 foot fence, then we're, that's fine. If they want a 6 foot fence, then they gotta.
so Ryan, are they okay with the setbacks?
Haven't heard anything more from them, so I don't know, but I can reach out if we continue it.
I think it would be
determine.
helpful. And we could actually, we're trying to meet their, some invisible needs we don't know if they have or don't have, so.
Mhm.
So. Yeah.
So, do I have a motion? Do I have to do, I'm assuming we have to do this in a motion, right? Okay,
Yeah, I'll move to table this application until the next meeting, pending more information from the applicants.
I'll second that.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion passed. All right, we are on to 2.3, review to consider request to convert existing garage into an accessory dwelling unit and add an additional 132 square feet to the structure for a
Here,
total
Brown,
of
can we
6.
switch the next two?
Sure,
I think it would make more sense to do the partition request first. If
okay.
That's okay.
Review to consider a request to partition an existing approximately 0.64 acre parcel into 2 parcels. Parcel 1, 15,363 square feet, and parcel 2, 12,990 square feet at 117 and 1086 Second Avenue. Owner and applicant Ryan. Hi, Ryan. Okay. Any commissioners, members wish to disqualify him or herself for any personal or financial interest in this matter before us tonight? Or does any commissioner member wish to report any significant ex parte or pre-hearing contacts?
No?
No.
Does any member of the audience wish to challenge the right of this commission to hear this matter? All right, not seeing or hearing any. Is there any member of the audience who wishes to question the jurisdiction of this body to act on behalf of the city council in this matter? Okay, don't see or hear any. Oregon land use laws require that all issues be raised. If the issues are to be appealed, failure to raise those issues at this hearing may invalidate their further appeal. All right, Ryan, can you go ahead and give us your staff report?
Okay, so we have 2 associated applications next. The first one we're looking at right now is a request to partition property, which is addressed 1117 and 1086 North 2nd Avenue. It's tax lot 100. It's zoned R2. It's currently 1 lot that's 0.64 acres, and they're requesting a partition to create 2 lots. Parcel 1 would have 15,363 square feet, and parcel 2 would have 12,990 square feet. The lots were created in 1921 as part of the Riverside addition to Gold Hill. That's when they were created in their basically existing form. At some point, there was a boundary line agreement recently that slightly altered the size. So originally they were lots 9 and 10 of block 1 of the Riverside Addition. At some point, it became one lot. There's an existing old house and then a relatively new house, something like 10 years or so old on this. So the staff report has looked at, does this meet all of the lot size developments, all the requirements of a partition? And essentially everything is met, and suggests that the Planning Commission approve this with one question that really sticks out. So currently, when you're creating a partition or subdivision in Gold Hill, you're responsible to improve the street frontage along the street. So both of these lots would front 2nd Avenue. So somewhat recently, there was a project that put sidewalk down the entire south side of 2nd Avenue, but essentially all of historic residential 2nd Avenue past Swedes Machinery doesn't have sidewalk until you get out to the new subdivision at the end of town. So there's really 2 choices for you. Our code says that frontage needs to be improved, which would mean extending the asphalt, putting in curb, gutter, and sidewalk at the edge of the street to bring the full street up to standard. So that's one condition you could install on this application, that the partition is approved. First, you have to submit a final plat in accordance with state law within 1 year. Second, you improve the street frontage to meet street standards. Or there's an option you can recommend to the city council that they approve security for future improvement. And that would basically be, the applicant would provide an estimate of what it would cost to put in curb, gutter, and sidewalk and extend the asphalt. And the city council, rather than having one small piece developed, could accept some kind of security, a bond or some kind of performance agreement stating that in the future this will be paid for. The other option is, our code states that the Planning Commission, based on existing development in this vicinity, can waive the requirement to install street improvements if it doesn't seem appropriate based on nearby development standards. So I know that there was some thought some time ago about applying to put sidewalk on the full 2nd Avenue frontage. I think, to my recollection, it was before I was working with Gold Hill, but I believe there was kind of opposition to that because of how it would affect everybody's driveway and the grade. So I'm not sure that we have a plan to require people to put in curb, gutter, and sidewalk on that portion of 2nd Avenue. So there's a choice for you to consider. There is existing curb in front of the old house that looks like it lines up with where curb would be at the edge of the street, but the newer house and the second, what would be the second parcel, doesn't have any curb. So with that, the choice is, the recommendation from the staff is that Planning Commission can approve this. And there are two conditions. One, that final plat is completed within a year. And 2, there's a choice. You can either require them to build the frontage improvements, put this forward to the city council, and ask the city council to consider accepting security for future improvements, or decide that based on the adjacent development that installation of street improvements is not appropriate at this time. So with that, I'm sure there'll be some questions, and I'm hoping that the applicant has some comments for you to consider as well before you make a decision.
Okay, Ryan, would you like to add anything? Ryan Plummer?
I don't have a whole lot to add. Obviously, I'd like to go with the last option there. Looking at everything else that's there, it doesn't make sense to me to have a small section that really in the end would almost be a trip hazard. And if you're improving just that section, the rest of the road, as he's pointed out, doesn't have that. There's not a plan in place. In fact, there might be opposition to that. I would just put it forward as sort of the easiest way forward is to not require that.
Can I ask Jerry a question? Jerry,
Yes.
I'm not as familiar with what your plans are and what you've been talking with the council about and those kinds of things, but I know that you're looking to improve the neighborhoods all around, and I'm assuming at some point we're going to want to put in sidewalks. Is that true? Do you think?
Well, I've dealt with this before, where we've had a remodel in an industrial area, and our ordinance said they have to put curb, gutter, and sidewalk, and it is an anomaly because it's the only property with curb, gutter, and sidewalks in the whole strip. So
I have that on a street in in a neighborhood.
yeah, yeah. And so do I want to see curb, gutter, and sidewalks? Absolutely, because it's very expensive. But do I want to require it when this is a single property in the middle of a bunch of other properties that don't have curb, gutter, and sidewalk? Should we require it? And Ryan makes a good point. He'd be the only one. So what kind of effect does that have on stormwater and storm drainage? I'm struggling. I really am. And I really have to kind of defer back to you guys and Ryan.
Is there a process in place right now where money would be collected for those kinds of things to be able to start doing improvements and add to the improvements if we were to get some grant monies at some point in the future to be able to get curbs on that street?
Yeah, quite honestly, if I receive grant money, I would try to probably fix what's in place first before we added new stuff.
Right, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is on Second Avenue. That's an ODOT road, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes, Second Avenue is a state highway.
And where is this I'm unclear about where this is, but in relation to all the work that was done by ODOT for previous sidewalks.
It's down a little bit past Ray's on the right.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, to me, it doesn't make any sense to put curb and gutter in for one lot. I would.
Do we want to collect some funds for any future improvements for that?
I don't think, the sidewalks were put in 2004, there was all the, ODOT gave us a couple of $1 million to do those sidewalks. And that's an ODOT project. And it's a state highway. I think because it's a state highway, I would give the guy a pass because nothing's going to happen unless ODOT's doing it anyway. So yeah, I don't know. I think I would just leave it there. I would be okay just not messing with it.
Yeah, I think it does make a lot of difference being on the state highway. Yeah.
That's a tough call. It really is. Theoretically, you want to enforce your ordinances so those curb, gutter, and sidewalks can be built as people make improvements. But what's the reality of that? And quite honestly, I know how much curb, gutter, and sidewalk costs. It's a huge expense. And do we want to have this person incur that expense for just his property and then nothing else happens, adjacent? I've got a heart.
How does this affect us if we make this, decision for this landowner and we don't make that same decision on somebody else?
That's a great point. Great point. And Ryan, maybe you can help me with this. Is there something that we can write into our findings that says, hey, if adjacent property owners are required to do it, then Mr. Plummer will also have to do it?
So if adjacent property owners who aren't asking for anything currently are required to do it, he definitely would be in him or current new property or future property owners of those lots would be in the same boat. And so if they were required to pay for part of it, he would. I would point out that our code does specifically have a section, I was trying to find that again. 16.32.070 allows the Planning Commission to exempt those improvements deemed unreasonable based on the nature of existing development in the vicinity.
That's right, you did bring that
So
up.
there's a very specific code that allows you to determine that it's really unreasonable to complete one section or something. And I
think it's unreasonable to complete one section, but I actually feel it's more unreasonable because it's on a state highway.
Yeah, I think.
I think because those two things exist, I think that makes it reasonable for us to consider that.
A big sidewalk project on 2nd Avenue won't happen unless there's some kind of state funding. Other smaller local streets will have to be improved by city funds. So
yeah. Otherwise, I think that we should consider one of those other three options but I think the fact that it's on a state highway, that makes me feel like, it makes sense that it should be exempt. That would be my recommendation.
To me, it doesn't make any sense. I mean, you could install sidewalks and curb and gutter, and it might sit there for 15 years before that whole project gets approved. And then you've got an older section you're trying to mate up with new construction. I would rather wait for the day when that comes, that whole project gets done down that side and it gets all done in one project.
And one of the reasons for not doing anything now is that the greenway it's still in play, and there may be greenway funds to put in a bike lane and sidewalks and all that kind of stuff along completing that on 2nd Avenue. So and that would be a different design than we would come up with now. So we could actually you could build a sidewalk and then have the greenway pass and they rip it up so I make a motion, or I don't know if this is the time, but basically I think
this is the time.
Figure out make a motion not to have to avoid the sidewalk. Mark, you make better motions than I do.
So I'll move to accept the recommendation in the staff report using option 3 of item 2.
I'll second that.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Moving forward. Okay, so now we're going to go to the other one, right? Now we're talking about the ADU. Okay. Sorry, I'm just pulling the agenda up. Okay. Review to consider request to convert existing garage into an accessory dwelling unit and add an additional 132 square feet to the structure for a total of 660 square feet on an existing 0.64 acre lot in the R2 zoning district for 1117 2nd Avenue. Ryan Plummer is the applicant. All right. Any commissioners wish to disqualify themselves for any personal or financial interest in the matter before us tonight, or does any commissioner member wish to report any significant ex parte or pre-hearing contact?
No.
Does any member of the audience wish to challenge the right of the commissioners to hear this matter? And is there any member of the audience who wishes to question the jurisdiction of this body to act on behalf of the city council on this matter? Okay. Oregon land use laws require that all issues be raised if there are any issues in order to are to be appealed. Sorry, failure to raise the issues of this hearing may invalidate their further appeal. So if you could give us the staff report, Ryan.
Certainly. So this is the same property we were just discussing now we've approved a partition, so he'll be working with the surveyor to get a plat recorded, and this will be its own tax lot, which is 117 Second Avenue, which has the newer house. And in the back is an existing garage. And so they're proposing to convert the existing garage into a dwelling unit and add an additional 132 square feet for a total of 660 square feet. So the application is asking for an accessory dwelling unit, which our code allows. However, this is R2 zoning, and our code limits accessory dwelling units to 600 feet. So rather than calling it accessory, we can just call this a second dwelling unit, and he's not going to be limited to 600 square feet. So the addition, creating a 660 square foot dwelling unit, is allowable in the R2 zone. So I've looked at the standards which are found in 1748.050 and 1716.100 through 200. I think with some conditions, all of these standards can be met. The proposed lot coverage will only be 24%. That's less than the maximum of 50%. This is really not going to be visible from the street as it's behind the existing house and landscaping, so design standards don't apply. They have a sufficient parking with existing off-street parking for the home, and a driveway that has parking in front of this proposed garage. They're not proposing any signage. So there's one condition that they will have to apply for a building permit from Jackson County Development Services and then comply with all those requirements. They also need to turn in elevation drawings so that we can make sure that the structure is not over height limit, which I'm sure it won't be. So let's see. Just looking for what else is pertinent. So it can't be more than 25 feet high. We're not going to require any additional buffering. There's existing landscaping, and there should not cause any problems with neighbors. The building is already there essentially. So there are 4 recommended conditions that staff has for this, being 1, the applicant shall provide a reciprocal access easement related to the shared driveway between 117 and 1086 North 2nd Avenue. That guarantees that the driveway that kind of goes across 1086 and comes back to 117 in the back is, as new owners occur, that's a recorded access for that dwelling unit. Also, the applicant needs to submit elevation drawings. Oh, since it's not an accessory dwelling unit, it can be 35 feet tall. They need to apply for a building permit from Jackson County Development Services and comply with all those requirements. And then the development needs to comply with all Gold Hill Municipal Code, as well as state and federal laws and regulations. So the proposal meets all of the setbacks. The current building may be a little too close to the back property line, but they're only planning to expand into the lot and not extend that existing non-conforming setback. So if there are any questions, I'd be happy to try to answer those.
Yeah. I don't have any questions. Anybody else?
So the the driveway easement, would go down the lot line between the 2 lots, or just curious as to location?
Essentially, the new property line is proposed basically right down the middle of that driveway. And that driveway, I believe, serves the old house and the garage in the back. Mr. Plummer can speak to that, but it appears that that's what's taking place in looking at the site.
That is not actually the intent. The intent was to have the lot line to the west of that driveway, and that particular driveway would only serve the older house there, which is actually 1087. And I was not planning on creating an easement because I was not going to have driving access. I was actually going to go ahead and put a fence along there. There are some very large trees there that I have no intention of taking out, and would be working with and around for that new property line, which would actually put the parking for that back unit squarely on the 1117 lot. And there would not be driveway all the way to the back.
And with that revised information, I would suggest striking condition 1.
Mr. Plummer, is there anything else you want to add?
I don't know that I have anything relevant to add.
So in other words,
Commissioners, do you have any questions for the applicant?
yeah, just in other words, you're going to have a separate driveway for each lot. And if you had a fence all the way down between the two lots, nobody's going to have any trouble getting on and off their property.
Correct.
Okay.
Is it going to be a rental? I mean, does that matter? Should we be asking that? Does that matter?
So technically, our code says that the main house or the accessory dwelling unit has to be owner occupied or a family member of the owner, but that's really legally unenforceable, and that's something I'll suggest that we change in our upcoming code. So I don't think we should even try to make the applicant pretend to comply with that, is my suggestion.
And we're actually turning this into this isn't an accessory dwelling anyway, so. I mean,
If we were to call it an accessory dwelling unit, it'd have to be 600 square feet, but the R2 zone allows 2 dwelling units. So we'll just call it a second dwelling unit. If he chooses to rent it out, that would be his choice.
And Ryan, you're saying there's enough parking and everything then, and access to that if that does become a rental or something? You're
By our
saying that-
code, yes, there is enough parking on site.
Okay. Any other questions, commissioners? Any other discussion items on this?
Nope.
Does the applicant have any other comments?
He does not.
Is there a motion?
Mark, you got to do this.
Okay. I'll move to approve the application based on the staff recommendation using items 2, 3, and 4, striking item number 1.
I'll second that.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Before Mr. Plummer leaves, can I give him a couple comments? Chair
What's
Brown,
that?
before
What's
Mr.
that?
Plummer leaves, can I
Yes.
I'll just give him a couple comments. Okay.
Yes.
So we'll send a notice of decision on both of these applications to you, Mr. Plummer. And one thing that you'll need to do is you'll need to have sets of plans for the building permit prepared. The city will need to stamp those before the county will accept them. So we'll get, I probably won't get it until Monday, but I'll get a notice of decision on both applications emailed to you. And then you can bring copies of any building permit plans that you have to the city to stamp and then take them to the county, but they won't accept them without the city having stamps. And you'll need 4 sets of all your drawings.
Okay, thank you. I was aware of that because I did this in backwards order and I went to the county first.
Okay.
So you appreciate that.
All right. Good luck with your project.
Thank you all for your time. Appreciate
Yeah.
it.
Good luck.
Yeah.
I want to propose, can I just bring up other matters? So that's the end of our stuff, right? I think that is, okay. One of the things I'm having a hard time with is my calendar is not really knowing when these meetings are going to happen and then working things around that. Can we try to do at least try, right? I mean, there might be incidents where we try to do something sooner or later, because it's not working for somebody's calendar or it's an emergency or whatever. But if we could try to do some kind of regimented monthly night would be really easy for my calendar. So I'd like to bring that up as a suggestion now. It's like I'm missing another board meeting tonight because this one got moved. And so it's getting really hard.
I think having the grant will also help us have something to do if we decide to do a set monthly meeting. So if stuff comes in, we can keep a set certain, first Tuesday of the month, third Tuesday,
And
whatever.
we could also just, if we don't have anything, we don't have anything, but at least we have the date set up to put things on it. So,
Yeah, that'd be fine if we just schedule one every month on a certain, like you say, second Tuesday of the month or whatever we decide.
Yeah,
And then if there's nothing to meet on, we just don't have a meeting.
yeah.
And then somebody would have to wait potentially 7 weeks, but
Yeah. What
Or,
I'm gonna
well,
propose
probably not that
is-
long, but at least some applicants might have to wait a little bit, but still.
What
That-
I'd like to propose is Tuesdays. That seems to work. I don't know. It seems to, like, we've been doing them on Tuesdays, right? On a regular basis, I think. Seems like it might work for you, right? As
I
well.
would suggest the third Tuesday of the month would be my suggestion.
Okay,
There's another town that does second and fourth, so if we did Thursdays, I wouldn't compete with them.
okay. Let's do
Okay.
that. That's what I'd like to, just AD.
Did you say Thursdays or Tuesdays, Ryan?
Third Tuesdays of the month, every
Third
third
Tuesday, yeah.
Tuesday of
The
the
third
month.
Tuesday, yeah,
That'd be fine.
okay. And can Carrie, is that something you can send out to everybody? So council member gets that as well?
Yes, I can.
Okay,
So I can help
And,
work with Carrie, and if there's no applications and nothing to talk about, Carrie can send out a notice saying no need for a meeting.
that'd be great.
Yes.
And then Jerry, is anybody working on trying to get us a full commission? Because I think it'd be helpful if we had more folks on. So if I can't make it sometime, Mark can run the meeting and we can have a quorum.
Right. Yeah. No, we're working on it.
Yeah,
We've actually had that discussion. So yeah,
Okay.
we have 2 more vacancies and we're trying to fill them.
okay, I wasn't sure if
So
that was even in the forefront of anybody's mind.
I got this is a little bit of a side topic, I guess, maybe, but Wendy, you and I both attended that remote training about 6 weeks ago,
Yeah,
a couple
Yeah.
months ago. I had posed a question to the presenter that basically should planning commission members be using our own private email for
Mm.
planning commission business, and he strongly suggested not to, and that we should have a city email account. Is that something we can look at? That was just, he strongly recommended that, just in case. I don't have anything in my email that if it ever got dragged public that I'd have to worry about, I don't think, but I think that was the gist of it.
oh, you mean for like, for.
If something legal came up and
Yeah.
they could sequester all of your
Yeah,
private
no, I would
emails. And
prefer having a different email for that.
Yeah.
so,
We can
I
certainly
don't-
work on that. And I've been the subject of a public records request for my email. And if nothing else, it's very costly because your email goes to an attorney who goes through it and identifies what's confidential and what's not. And it's just very costly. So yeah, we will certainly look at that. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's a good
Okay.
suggestion. Thanks for bringing that back up, Mark.
and I don't know how we would, I guess we'd have to log in and check
Well,
our email once in a while, or you could always send us a notice of
what I
a
would-
methink
Yeah, what
to
I
our
do
private
is,
email to log in, but
I have, I don't know, I don't think this should corrupt the process, but what I have is multiple emails coming to one email, right? So you can have those emails coming into your main inbox.
okay,
So then you don't miss it because you're checking it for other emails every day.
Sure. sure.
Yeah,
Okay.
we'll take care of that. That's great.
Yeah,
Great
if we could
idea.
look at that, that'd be good.
Yep.
I think that just tightens things up
Absolutely.
for what we're doing.
I agree. Any other comments or any other discussions? for
It
commission
sounds like
next
that
October?
grant sounds like really great news, I guess. So, yeah, well done, Ryan.
Yeah, so the next meeting,
Yeah.
we should look at setting up we kind of have an expectation from DLC about when we'll have some work done. So at the next meeting, we could go over what our projected timeline is. So
Okay,
Yeah, that was awesome.
so our next meeting then will be
Probably Christmas Day.
1, 2, 3.
with our
It's gonna
luck.
be the 21st.
Right.
Close enough. You know what? If we don't have anything that day, maybe we could push it. Maybe we could meet. I mean, I don't know. Well, what does the 21st look like for everybody? Could we meet if Ryan wanted to talk to us about putting a timeline together on the 21st?
I'm probably okay.
Yeah, I think I can do that. Yeah, I'll be back.
I could do. Before I do that, before I say it, let me just look.
Let's see.
Darn it. Oh, that's okay. I had another board meeting. Boards like Tuesdays for some reason, but I don't need to go to that one. So, yeah, let's just plan that, and then if we don't have anything, or if you don't,
We'll have the fence. We'll have the fence applicant, either a response from him or him in
Oh,
person.
right.
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 And then Carrie, I don't know how you want to work these things, but maybe we could set up the same Zoom link for all of those meetings.
I'll look
Possible?
into that. Sure, we can use the same, we might use the same Zoom link, but I'll look into that.
I mean, that's kind of what we do for our standing meetings that we do.
Okay.
And we don't have to be set in stone on Tuesdays. If Tuesdays are becoming an issue, we can make it a Wednesday or Thursday. It's up to you guys.
I think Ryan's probably got the most complicated evening calendar. So seems like Tuesdays seem to work for you, Ryan.
I'm flexible, but the third Tuesday does work. But if you have a reoccurring board meeting of something else, we could look at
That one, that is a reoccurring board meeting, but I've already told them I'm stepping back. So I'm okay. Yeah.
All right.
So it's a different board that I'm on that was tonight. So, all right. So, yeah. So right now I'm good on third Tuesdays.
I think that's a great idea. Just set a standing meeting. I think that's awesome.
Sure.
Okay, great. All right, folks. I always forget how to close this thing out. Do I just say meeting adjourned, or what do I do? I always forget.
some groups are formal and ask for a motion just to make sure everybody is done, but it's your,
Okay.
I think it's your choice.
And how would that motion go, so I can write that down for a note?
Is there anybody who wishes to move to adjourn?
Okay.
Steve's going to make me do this, so I'll move to adjourn.
Okay. All right. Second, and all in favor.
Aye.
All right, folks. See you on the next
Okay.
meeting.
Thank you.
Bye,
Thanks for
guys.
joining
Thank
us.
you.
Okay.
Jerry
Okay.
and Carrie.
My
Thanks,
camera before
Marvin.
next week.
Bye-bye.